There's a huge predilection when it comes to doing rapid prototyping that the 3D printer is the end-all be-all. And yeah, it does some great things, but it takes some time. It's an expensive machine. This one happens to be an FDM machine that does ABS plastic, has a nice 10-10-12 build platform, and I want to say it's about a 10 mil slice height, which is good for most things. Now, that's great if you want to set it, forget it, and walk away. You've got some things you can't exactly structure and cut in what you want. But if you have something a little more like this, where you have pieces that are mechanically meant to saddle onto other things, and you want some fits that are nice and smooth, well, FDM particularly, but a lot of 3D printing capabilities don't provide you that kind of smoothness that you want when it comes to having nice polished edges. There are some artifacts that you get that you can clean up on laser cut items. For example, on here you can see some little slightly hairy edges, but that's just a little bit of the laser settings that can be optimized. Now with something like this, if I were to go with something that's maybe 9 inches by 8 inches by 8 inches, I'm thinking I've got a couple days in print time to build something that may be like a ground up from here and then build this structure up, and then maybe this lid is separate, or maybe I just put a piece of acrylic or leave it open on an alternate type setup. But for something like this, from the time that I draw it to screwing it together, and that's one thing, you can absolutely use self-tapping screws and just pour out the holes in acrylic. Something like this is just a matter of maybe an hour of time from the time you put the material in the bed to pulling it out and screwing it together. I have a complete system. Now, there's so much hotness out there when it comes to people wanting 3D print, 3D print, 3D print. But with something like this, you have something where the material itself is less expensive. The actual price to get into it is lower. This is on the small laser cutter we have, which is 12 by 24 inches. And something like this, I can whack out stuff all day long, and if I need to replicate it, and it's not just a one-off item, well, it becomes a lot more time and cost effective and not tying up your equipment with something like this. So from the time I put the material in, get my Arduino in there, my power supply module, and my sensor, and everything else, in much less time than I could with a 3D printed asset. So don't get so caught up when it comes to wanting a 3D printer that you forego other options. Now our 12 by 24 is inexpensive. We have it's 30 watts, about $14,000. But our 24 by 36 120 watt is somewhere closer in the 50K range. But a lot more capabilities, faster cut speed, thicker materials, and there's a lot more you can do with a machine like that. You don't have to go right to CNC if that's not the answer for your particular problem. So don't get so caught up in the actual 3D print mantra, additive manufacturing that's going on now. Sometimes cutting is still the best way to go.